Here's a wee bit information from my past. This is actually Cross Street in Bainsford, where I was brought up. In 1943, when I was born, Cross Street here was just more or less being completed. So my dad and the rest of the family, including me, stayed with friends just down there on the left. I believe they were called the Umplebees. I might be wrong, but I believe that's true. All these houses here were complete. They were brand new houses. But when the houses were complete in Cross Street, my dad got number 29 and we all stayed there for many, many years. A couple of doors down from us was the Scots. You may remember them, Alec and Jim Scott. Alec played for Rangers and Jim played for Hibs, I believe. Two world stars, so they are. But before they became famous, they used to play in the middle of the street up there, just on the brow of the hill. They stayed on the left, and a couple of doors up was where we stayed. So Jim and Alec always played out in the street. And I remember seeing my dad used to come back from work down this way. And he used to go and say, "Come on, give us a shot." And he used to dribble with them in the middle of the road. I'll never forget that. Well, Jim and Alec became stars on the world stage as far as football is concerned. And after that, Jim and Alec took on Aiken's pub in Manor Street in Falkirk. That's when they retired from football. But this area is where I was brought up. At that time, we had a dog called Kim, a black Labrador, and I had a wee barra. And I used to hang on to Kim's collar, and I used to guide the barra with my feet. And we used to come all the way down here, up the hill, round by the shop, right round at Hall Street, back into Cross Street again. All of our family stayed here. Roy, James, June, Bill, the lot of us. We all stayed near wee Heather. Heather was the weest. But up here, where that building is in the corner, that's a shop. You may recognise it, anyone who stays local. But that used to be a wee bungalow. And at the side of the bungalow, they had a sort of wee lean-to on it, and it was you could walk in the front door, and on the left-hand side it was a counter, and there were shelves at the back of that with tins of this and so on. It was a wee shop run by the Muirheads, Mr. and Mrs. Muirhead and their son James. As I said before, James was sort of semi-invalid. I think he'd been paralysed down one side at the time, but my God, he could run that shop. Of course, this was the days when coupons were on the go. And I remember my dad and mum used to give us a line to go to the shop to get things like butter or bread or whatever. And that was just at the top of the road there in that shop. In those days, what happened is the kids were given a line from their mother and fathers to go to the shop to get things like potatoes and so on, tinned food, that sort of tea, sugar, that sort of thing. And then on a Thursday when the men got paid, they'd all come down to the shop here and pay their week's debt. Without every week that happened, if I remember correctly. Most of them down here worked in the BA, and of course at that time they got paid in the BA weekly, and you could see them all prancing down here. They paid all their debt first, then they went back to the club, the BA club, to have a wee swally. Brings back memories, this. But now to see the shop now, I think there's Asians or Pakistani people got it now, and they've got a house at the top and at the side and so on. But as I say, it used to be a wee bungalow, and I can still picture them yet, Mr. and Mrs. Muirhead and wee James. Of course, as the years gone by, everything changed, the shop. I don't know what happened to Mr. and Mrs. Muirhead, whether they just moved out the area or not, I'm not sure. But this is where I stayed for most of my life. 29 Cross Street. A sad thing that happened, I can remember. I was coming down here with my dad, holding his hand, and up on the brow of the hill, the other side of that red car, there was a policeman, and the lemonade motor was there. It was a lemonade truck that used to come round and deliver bottles of lemonade for anybody. But there was a wee laddie that stayed across the road where that sort of blue pipe thing is on the right hand side there. He apparently came out and he was hanging on the back of the lorry. Of course, the lorry started to reverse and the wee laddie was killed. That's always been embedded in my mind. And I was holding on to my dad's hand. My dad put his coat around me so I couldn't see if I went up there. I'll never ever forget that. But all of our neighbours here, they were all good friends. I used to know everybody in the street at one time. But that was what, 1943? That's about 80 years ago. My God. But it has all changed now. Has all changed. Really, I don't know anybody down here now. But this is the area we were all brought up in.